Welcome to August, the very last day in August in fact, on the Smallholding. It's really early morning and you can probably tell from my breath it's quite a chilly, fresh morning. It's almost as if we're turning into autumn here, so even though it's the end of August, we still haven't had a really good summer here. It's been quite cold. We had a nice June. July has been just wet. August it started off extremely wet and it's picked up in the last week or two, but it's by no means been as warm as we would like it to have been. So today is the day that we've arranged for our pigs to leave us. So I thought, let's get a quick video of what the Smallholding looks like before that happens. We are doing a separate video and vlog on the whole process of the pigs leaving us and what we will be doing when they come back to us, etc, etc. But for now we are heading into what we call the big garden, which is effectively just a paddock where we have got 4 of our sheep. So the sheep that we've got this year, we've got 2 that we keep for pets and we've got 2 that will be going into the freezers. So the 2 that we've got that are going into the freezers we bought in as orphan lambs. We have not lambed any of our own sheep this year. Last time actually that we spoke on one of these tours was in May. I did a Smallholding tour in May and I can't quite believe it's been that long since we've done a tour. So here's Glenn, one of our sheep, and Maggie, his wife. Does anybody know what that's actually off? My daughter named them after a favourite TV show. And then we've got the other 2, Nettle and Carol. Nettle and Carol are the pets. They'll be going nowhere and we won't be breeding from them. From a sheep point of view, this is where our sheep graze. I'm often asked, how do you prevent worm infestations in your sheep? How do you rotate land? Because that's what most people do who've got more land than us. We aren't able to rotate in the true sense of the word of what you would expect a farmer to rotate. So we make sure that we poo-pick our land regularly, and that's one of the ways that we try and prevent worms. We do also worm preventatively for the sheep. We don't like to do that if we can help it. We've only got 4 sheep that need worming. The smallest tub of wormer does like a lot more, and I mean a lot more than 4 sheep, and they don't have long expiry dates on them. But also, even though not all of these are for meat, we don't like to use chemicals where we don't have to, but in a lot of situations with the sheep we've noticed that it is better to do preventative care. You know, we've come across different things that the sheep can get over the years, and it's always worrying. If you've seen any of our videos, you know we want to prevent any of that ever happening, but making sure if they are for the freezers that they're safe to eat as well. Now, over there in the distance are the pigs. I'm not going to go over and see them just yet. I do have some footage of seeing them last night, and the reason I'm not going to go over and see them just yet is because they haven't had their breakfast, because we are waiting for the trailer to arrive. So we have got a friend who's coming to help us out. He is bringing his big cattle trailer, which should be a lot better for the pigs than, so last year we had a what's it called, a pig trailer effectively, and it's a lot smaller, a lot lower than a cattle trailer. Just let me close this gate. And the pigs that we took in it were a little bit nervous of the height, so I'm hoping that it'll be easier than last year. It wasn't difficult last year, it's just always a worry for me that I want the pigs to go as calmly as possible. You know, I want to keep as least stress as possible, and I know people will come back at me with comments, well, they're going to die, so that's stressful. Look, that's what they're here for at the end of the day. So the lives are happy, healthy ones while they're with us, and then when they go, we want that to be as least impacting as stressful as possible, but that is what the end result will be. So pigs are over there. They haven't been fed this morning because they're going to be fed when the trailer comes, and we'll take the food into the trailer. They can have their breakfast on the move. It'll probably be a 20 to 30 minute drive to the abattoir. Stephen and I will be going with them, following along, checking them. Well, they're already checked in because you have to do what's called a movement form. There's a bit of a thing that we're going to talk about in the other video that happened last night with them, so we'll just have to see how that works out at the abattoir, and then that'll be the pigs gone, and that will free up the area over there where the pigs currently are. But one of the reasons that I've come in here is you can see behind me, this is the area where the pigs were when they first came. So this was split into 2, so some of you who've been here before might recognise and think, what's the difference? There was a fence across the middle. I can never do that on the camera. There was a fence across the middle, and we've taken that out now. So all of these pallets are just to keep the black tarp down. This area, the pigs were in the front bit. So when they first arrived, we got the pigs as weaners, 12-week-old weaners, and they arrived, or we picked them up on the 1st of April. We took them into the barn for the first few weeks of their life because they were so small and it was still really chilly. And then they came out here into the front bit of ground that we've got here. This ground was grown on last year and it still had some root crops in the ground from when we had vegetables in here. So they cleared all of this for us. They did it in record time though. So do you remember those videos, for those of you that have seen it before? They did it in record time and we were like, where are we going to put them now? So we had to find, I think in the last video actually in May, they were still in here. So just after that, Stephen and I were saying, where can we put them? We're going to have to find somewhere else to put them. And that's when we came up with the location in the field over there. Because of the amount of weeds that are in that field, there's a big area that the horses just use to go to the toilet, and it's actually really difficult to poo pick out when horses go to the toilet there because of the amount of weeds that they were going in basically. And we also like to make sure that we poo pick the horses' field to prevent worms, etc, etc. So the pigs have been over there, done an absolutely fantastic job of rooting all of that up. I'm going to insert the footage now that I got last night. So just understand that that was the night before because something happened last night and I had to stop doing the footage. So we'll talk all about that on the dedicated pig video. So that's not going to be on this one. So I'll put that in now and I'll meet you back in just a second. Welcome back to life on the Smallholding. Let's have a look around. Let's see what's happening. It is the end of August, late evening, absolutely beautiful evening. It's not as cold as I'm making it look, honestly, but it's been a gorgeous day. The sun's been in and out, but we'll take it because it's not raining. In my bucket, I've got some fresh apples that we have literally just picked off the tree because tonight it's a really important night, really important next couple of days for us because it's the penultimate day for the pigs. So the apples are to feed the pigs and make sure they have a happy last couple of meals before they leave us tomorrow. Now I'm just going to navigate past the horses because if they smell these apples in this bucket, there's a fat chance that I'm going to get knocked over. So I'm just going to ignore them, the horses, so they don't think it's for them. And we're going to have a wander over and see the very noisy pigs. So these are two pure Gloucestershire Old spots. I'll tell you more in just a second when I've fed them. So these guys have lived out here for the last couple of months. As you can see, they have completely turned over the space where they're living. That was the whole intention of bringing them out here. This area that they're in was covered with weeds, just like what you see down here in this corner. It comes across from our neighbour's land. And we try to keep the whole area where the horses are in as weed free as possible, but inevitably nettles just creep and they come across, and all of the thistles and all of the other weeds that we've got in here, they just take over. So this bit that the pigs were in was absolutely riddled with weeds. And one of the fantastic things that this breed does, as well as many other breeds of pig, is root the ground. So you can see over here, if you can see in the distance there, there's not a bit of grass left. Now they haven't done so well on this bit purely just from a timing perspective. I guess if they were on it another couple of months, then oh, I don't believe it, his earpiece is out. And that is exactly where the Smallholding tour of that evening finished, because a pig without an ear tag that needs to go to the abattoir is not a good place to be. Anyway, let's get back to the next morning and pick up where we left off. This morning is just as nice as last night. It's absolutely lovely. It's a beautiful morning. As I say, it's quite chilly, and I popped a post on Instagram because it really does remind me of when the pigs go. It does feel like the chapter is turning to autumn, and this morning is backing up that feeling. It's definitely a more autumnal morning. I absolutely love autumn. It's one of my favourite months between autumn and winter, but when I say winter, I mean a proper winter. None of this it's raining a lot malarkey. I like, you know, proper winter, snow and ice. But then obviously when you're working and you have to leave the house to take the kids to school and to get yourself to work and things, it doesn't always help when you've got snow and ice. So a white Christmas, let's have a white Christmas. But again, that doesn't fit everybody who has to work at Christmas, etc. So yes, very autumnal this morning. We're in the paddock now, so the horses are in the distance over there. Last time when we did the video in May, the horses were still living in on a night. I talked about should I start leaving them out, and we did. They have been out every night since the last video came out or thereabouts. They are living their best life, very happy. Lydia's just turned to get her back in the sun. She's the one that's got the white rug on. Well, it's a fly rug, and Sonic is the little pony that you might just be able to see. Now, on the last video, one thing that I didn't talk about is these guys here. I don't know why I missed them out. The chickens are supposed to be contained in the paddock that I'm in at the moment, but they're a little bit rebellious at the minute and just bugger off to wherever they fancy. They're over the garden with the sheep as well, but to be honest, it doesn't bother me too much because they do a really good job of picking the worms out of the sheep poo. Hopefully there aren't any, as I say, but if there are, that's just another preventative measure that we've got there. So the chickens live over here in the woods at the moment. Now again, if you're interested, we do weekly, well daily at the moment, vlogs on life on the Smallholding, where I talk a lot more about these decisions and actions that we're making in much more detail, like literally as they happen. It's a proper vlog, it's not pre-planned, it's not staged or anything like that. So if you're interested in just general life on the Smallholding, then please feel free to subscribe and join us on all of those vlogs moving forward. We tend to do more when we've got time off the paid job because both Stephen and I work full time. So when we've got more time off the job, we do more vlogs. And then when we're at work and we're working full time, we tend to just put them out less frequently, once a week. That's that chicken at the back got there. That's something. I dread to think what it is actually. It looks quite like some small animal. Or it might not be, it might just be a leaf. Tell what it is. Anyway, so the chickens, didn't talk about them last time, as I say. There's going to be a bit of a change around here. So at the moment, these are part of our laying hens. You've seen the others that have ran off into the field. They're supposed to lay eggs, but I can guarantee you if I go into that shed now, there won't be many. So I think that the ones that are running away and living the best life out everywhere else are laying eggs all over the place, or they're just being lazy layabouts. However, we've made a couple of decisions with regards to the chickens and the meat birds. I'm going to go and see how many eggs there are. They've already been fed and watered this morning, so they're happily just out and about. They've had the breakfast, so generally the chickens lay the eggs first thing, so do the ducks. So whatever we've got will probably be what we've got for the day. We normally buy chicks at day old for our meat birds. The breed that we get are called Ross Cobb, and we get these off a supplier that we've had for years. It's not, Ross Cobbs are not, for those of you that are interested or don't know, they're not a breed that you can generally breed yourself effectively. It's a mix between two different birds to produce a good sized meat bird, and they are generally the meat birds that you will get from, you know, your farm shops and your supermarkets. They're the quick growing breeds. It's just about how you feed them and the slow process of growing them rather than trying to get them up to speed in 30 odd days like the supermarkets do, that makes it different when you're doing it from a small holding or a farm shop perspective who grows their own. So supermarkets will try and raise their birds within 30-35 days, and you know, when you're eating a bird off the supermarket shelf and it's young and tender, that's why, because it's so young, and that's why it's so small as well. They just get them up to size as quickly as possible, get them out, you know, can charge pennies for them. Birds had no life, hasn't even existed. So it's the same breed you generally find that, or one of the variations of, that the farm shops will raise, but they'll do it on a more slower scale, so they won't try and do it as quickly as the supermarkets. They'll get them up to a decent size so that the legs can still hold them. You know, they'll build up the muscle as they're growing over the weeks, up to, you know, however many weeks it may be. It does vary for different farms. And that's the breed that we chose to use, and we have been using those for years now. However, for multiple different reasons, Stephen and I are considering changing to a dual purpose bird. Now, those reasons I'll get into on the different vlogs and things as we go through, but essentially it's one of the things is about sustainability and self-reliance. We have to buy in our meat birds as the old chicks, want to be able to hatch them ourselves, and just have that continuous cycle, so that it's not such a big process where we buy in 40 and we have to do 40 birds all at once. If we can just have a continual cycle through the year, then it's going to be easier on us as well. It's more sustainable. It's hopefully it'll be a better bird, in the sense it will be a lot smaller, as in a roasting bird on your plate at the end of the day. It just feels like it's the right thing to do. Buying birds to raise them quickly and get them on your plate as quickly as possible, even though it's longer than the supermarkets, is still kind of questionable for us. So that's one of the decisions that we've decided to make. And also we can use these for laying eggs as well as the meat, hence the dual purpose side. Any of the chicks that we incubate that turn out to be cockerels, majority of those would end up being the ones that go into the freezer. The girls we would keep for laying hens, but then once we're in that cycle, we would just continue with that. It's not to say that the only birds that we would eat would be the cockerels. We'd just see how many we had and what we needed at that time. So we have been in touch with a local company who are looking to see if they can supply us with what we're looking for from a chick's point of view, because we're not going to buy eggs off them and incubate them. We're going to buy the day-old chicks, some of which will obviously be cockerels, because I'm saying obviously, the breed that we're looking at, Rhode Island Red, can't be sexed at birth. Some chicks you can sex at birth with the distinctive eyes, lines on their eyes that they've got and things like that. I thought I could hear a noise. Anyway, let's see how many eggs we've got. That all got a little bit serious, didn't it? Oh, well, that didn't take long, because there's not a single bloody egg, same as yesterday. So we have had a couple that have been laying up in the barn. There's one white hen that keeps running off as if she's really desperate for the toilet, and she goes and lays an egg in the barn, bless her. So this is the problem that we've got at the minute. So one of the other things around the chickens that we've decided is a project that Stephen and I are working on right now, is in the barn. So we essentially, at the moment, when we come to lock up on a night now, we have to come out here and we have to go down, lock the shed, we have to lock the ducks away, have to go in and lock the goats away that we haven't seen just yet. And it's when it's wet, raining, muddy, whatever, it's not really a nice thing to have to do, especially when it's pitch black. You can end up going A over T quite easily. The project that we've got on at the minute, or one of them, is we are transitioning all of the animals to live on a night in the barn. Some of them go in the barn for the whole winter, like the sheep, but we need to leave that as late as possible. But basically, the ones that we have to lock up on a night, we're going to move to the barn, and we're going to give them access from the barn walls to outside. And then once they go in the barn, they'll be in a little pen that we can just lock up on a night and keep everybody in the same place, make life much easier for everybody all round. And once they're all settled in the new home, we're hoping that the egg situation might resolve itself, because we're getting none off the ducks either, maybe 1 or 2 a day on a good day, which isn't great. So we'll go in and see the ducks now. As soon as I go in, it's going to be really noisy, so as always, that's why I'm hanging back. Here is where last time we didn't have a gate in between the ducks and the paddock, so that's been put in. Stephen's just made a gate in a piece of Harris fencing actually, so that's easy to get through and it keeps everything separated. Some of you may have noticed over on the big garden where the sheep are, the cockerel's not there. We took him in every night, but unfortunately the fox has still been and has taken him, which was always going to happen. For anything that's kind of out and about like that, as soon as the fox gets a whiff of it, then it's always a risk. Just the same for these chickens that are out here. We have lost a few. That was a funny squeak from a duck. Just the same with the chickens, we have lost a few. It's really sad, but it's just part and parcel of having a small holding and free range in them. So we'll go through here now, and then we'll finish off in the ducks. It's a bit of a quick one today. It's mostly keeping my mind off the fact that the pigs are going in a minute as well. So I just wanted to give you a whip round and just remind you that we're going to be doing these vlogs. As I say, we've been doing them very frequently at the moment whilst we've been off the paid job, but we'll get into a habit of doing them probably weekly, of life on the small holding. So if it's something that you're interested in, please do give us a subscribe, because it helps the channel, helps YouTube say people are interested in this. Because from my point of view, everybody should be interested in growing their own, raising their own, or helping somebody that does, or being a part of it if you can't do it yourself. Whatever it might look like for you, I would love to encourage everybody to be interested in that and live a bit of a more sustainable life. I'm not preaching, just saying what I would like. Okay, so here we are. This cage here is where we lock some chickens away on a night. That gets locked, but as you can see, the gate gets opened and they live out over there with the ducks as well, all quite happily, no problems there. These are the muck heaps that have last year's muck and this year's muck. In September they will all be getting transferred onto the vegetable beds, and these muck heaps will be empty, ready for the horses coming in the winter. The horses will come in as late as possible. We don't want them to come in too early, because problem is you start to thinking that it feels a bit wintry, October, certainly by November, start putting everything into winter mode, and then you realise, well, winter doesn't really come till January from a weather perspective where we live. So it turns out to be a very long winter if you commit to it too soon. So we try and keep everything out as long as possible, in sort of summer and autumn mode for as long as possible, before we then bring them in and do winter, hopefully just for January and February, but I can guarantee it'll probably be in December, because we'll start feeling sorry for everything. Now in the orchard, this is where we came before, and there was tons of blossoms on all of these trees. Look at the difference of what we're seeing now. So these were all blossoms, they are all now, these are cooking apples. We've got a variety of different apples going on. We've got some eating, some cooking. I'm absolutely thrilled to bits with how well this tree does every single year. This is one tree that I would not want to be doing without on the Smallholding. So as we move into September, the month of September for me is always about picking your apples, your cooking apples. It used to be about picking the brambles as well, but it seems that the brambles have come a lot earlier than back in, a few years ago. So we've been bramble picking and foraging quite a lot over the last week or so, and we've got tons of bullaces, wild plums, the apples very soon, the brambles. It's been a fantastic year for foraging, and hopefully will continue to be. I've got a few days more of that I want to do. So these chickens here, as I say, live out quite happily with the ducks. The only problem is ducks are absolutely messy creatures, as I always say. Since the last video, we've actually put in, you might have seen it when we walked past, there's a duck pond. Basically it's an IBC tank cut in half that Stephen has made. We did do a video on it, of course, and I'm hesitant to go past because the ducks always make such a racket when you go near them. They're very skittish. One of my favourite animals, but very skittish. And if you've never had a duck egg, oh my goodness, they're so good. So this looks filthy. Don't think that they're badly treated. They're filthy creatures. So you can fill that up, and then half an hour later it's absolutely filthy. So what we do is we tend to put a separate water out for the Brahma chicken, but the ducks then go and use that water as well. So that's one of the only difficulties of having the chickens with the ducks, is the ducks will have whatever water source you put out. So when we do the new barn situation, the ducks will come out here, and we're going to have a little trapdoor in the barn there, going into a new pen that Stephen's made in the barn. How we will stop them getting the chickens' water is yet to be decided. You can get kind of drinkers that's supposed to prevent that, but I'm not sure if they work. We'll have to see. Anyway, let's finish off with the goats. I've got a plot tour coming out in the next couple of weeks if you're interested in seeing the vegetable side of things rather than just the animals. And also we're doing barn vlogs. It feels like daily at the moment, so you can catch up with what's going on in the barn on there. Now in here, these girls are two dwarf pygmy goats. They are purely for pleasure, for nothing else. Now they live in here, let me show you. In here they've got a little shed that Stephen has turned into a goat house for them. And what we do is every day we're letting them out into the side gate, which we've been doing for quite a while now, because the plan is that they will be moving over to, let me take you to the messy jungle. Can you see all the hazelnuts on the floor that the squirrels had? The goats are going to be moving into the barn instead of living in this shed, and all of this here will get tidied out as part of the project that Stephen's working on. That IBC tank will get moved, and behind that will be the trapdoor effectively for where the goats will come in and out, and then the goats will start living each day in the paddock rather than where they're living now. So they get hay etc. now. Once they're in the paddock they won't need that, because assuming that we don't get too bad of a winter, they'll be able to go out and eat the grass every day. There is more grass than the goats would ever need in that paddock. So again, we'll just need to make sure that we stay on top of any worming routines with them, but that should work out really well for them. Now in here the goats have got a variety of different trees. None of them are poisonous to goats that we're aware of anyway from the research that we've done, but they do love jumping up and eating the leaves off the low hanging trees, especially when it rains. One of their favourite pastimes. So I think these are probably the last animals that we're going to be looking at today. So thank you very much for having a really quick look around the Smallholding with me. There is a lot of things that I probably have missed out because my mind is elsewhere, as I say, but that's part of a smallholder's life. We choose to eat meat, so we raise our own, and then we have to do the deed at the end. You know, the pigs are going into the abattoir to get done by the guys in the abattoir. We could do them here if we wanted to, because they're only for our personal consumption, but given the size and the machines and tools that you would need, we simply don't have that on the Smallholding. It's not something that we would buy for just a one-time use. Maybe in the future, you know, if we can invest in certain things, but who knows, that's for a whole other different conversation for a different day. So that's it from me. I will try and do a catch-up tour as we move into autumn, probably at the end of September or beginning of October. As I say, it's the very last day in August now, so I wanted to capture what everything looks like. It's so nice for me as well to be able to look back on, looking back on the May smallholding tour and what's changed. You think you haven't got much done, but you do. You know, the life of a smallholder, you never get everything done. There's always a list longer than your arm. Sometimes you'll feel overwhelmed because you haven't got to anything. Sometimes you'll feel massively rejoiced because you've got certain things done. But anyway, that's it for this one. I hope you've enjoyed this really quick look around, and thank you for keeping my mind occupied whilst I wait for the trailer to arrive. If you're interested in all of that, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and you can see what's going on in the future, what we're going to do with the pigs when they come back, and essentially what self-sufficiency looks like from a meat perspective, given that we're a meat-eating family. If there is anybody watching this and you think, well, I'm not a meat eater, this doesn't apply to me, that's absolutely fine. We have a whole bunch of kitchen garden videos and all that kind of stuff that we do as well, because we don't just eat meat, we have loads of veggies, we grow a whole variety of vegetables for our family, so we'd love to have you along for that. So anyway, it's entirely up to you. I'll see you soon. Thank you for watching.